Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the PH Journals podcast. Firstly, I just want to take this opportunity to apologize about last week's episode not airing in time on YouTube. However, it did reach most of the other platforms. Um, the past couple of weeks have been hectic, have been absolutely out of this insanely busy. Just trying to navigate my way through a lot of the challenges that we've faced in the past couple of weeks. Um, just getting the season up and running. We're back in full swing. And of course, somewhere along the lines, I needed to have a little bit of a breather and recoup myself because the podcast is doing exceptionally well. We've been managing to generate enough content on a daily basis, weekly basis. So we're carrying on with that whole model, trying to get guests on. It's been a challenge, but like I said, I'm not going to do something that I'm not having fun, and I've been having so much fun doing this one. So today's podcast is kind of an interesting one for me because I have touched on the subject probably in the very, very early stages of the podcasting sessions. But however, it's become a more and more prominent topic that I have discussed with a lot of people through DMs and other social media platforms. And it's quite an interesting one that I feel very passionate about. And I guess one that's kind of highlighted where I am and who I am in my career within the industry, and just kind of like a personal journey that I've taken on. So last week I told you a little bit last episode I told you a little bit about the PH Journal story. This kind of ties in with that. So following from the theme going forward, this one's quite a special one for me because it's all about brand awareness and particularly talking about personal brands. And the reason why this one came up was because since I've broken off on my own, the challenges of being a freelance professional hunter have been incredibly difficult. Not only did my previous employer, family member, whatever you want to call it, close a lot of doors for me, but also it was trying to navigate the delicate aspect about the insecurities within our industry. Now, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of older generations that are very, very insecure about where they stand within the industry, and especially with somebody that's come along from a very strong marketing perspective within, the hunting forums, it becomes a little bit of a risk factor for a lot of outfitters out there. So not to dwindle too much on it, but freelancing work has become incredibly difficult for me to get hold of. However, it's not the be and end all of what PH Journal stands for and where I want to go as far as my career path is concerned, right? So back in 2016, when this whole adventure of mine started, PH Journals became a brand. It became itself, and I found myself telling my story through the brand. It has evolved over the past couple of 8 years. It has evolved, and it's taken me along with the ride. It's been a very, very special journey, to say the least. And I've got to share a lot of my stories, some that I'm extremely passionate about, conservation, men's health, and some that are kind of frowned upon within the industry. However, I've never tried to hide anything from who I am as an individual. And that's what personal brands are all about, right? Is that you're projecting yourself out into the world, because the one thing, there's always a good and a bad part to whatever we do. But putting yourself out there on various different platforms, YouTube, Instagram, and all that sort of stuff, could have lasting implications for good and bad. But it's all about what you want to leave behind, or what your intention is by doing what you do. My intention is nothing more than just sharing my story that I'm extremely passionate about. And I feel there's a lot of stories that get untold by so many great individuals out there. And I think with the platforms that are accessible to us right now, it's only fair to share some stories. I'm not trying to say that mine is extraordinary at any point in time, but it's a story, right? And there's a lot of people out there that get to relate to a similar story that I get to share with you guys. I'm just one that wants to project myself out there and share my story with the rest of the world. And I think in an industry that is so faced with so many criticism and hardship, it's so important to really show the ins and outs of what really is going on, but as well the personalities behind what we showcase out there on any given basis. So how does this tie into professional hunting? Well, it kind of doesn't, but in the same sense, it's probably one of your most important tools you have to offer. And the reason why I say that is because if you've got a brand that is so strong and so passionate about what you do, it's very hard for people not to connect with that. But what does this all entail? Well, let's get into it. So I have highlighted a couple of points on why I feel that this is such an important task. And um, first of all, and right at the top of the list, probably not the most important, but in no particular order, my top of the list right now is to have a purpose. So, what is my purpose? Well, my purpose is conservation, of course. Like I said, and I've mentioned in a couple of podcasts before, I want to leave something behind for my daughter to appreciate. Because where I've come from, I've been very, very fortunate to appreciate some of the fantastic species that are out there. That an industry that has been through so many ups and downs, that has had breeding projects thrive and crash in a minute, in a matter of a couple of months. That's all part of the game. That's all having the skin in the game, and I've been a part of that. Do I necessarily want my daughter to be exactly involved in those models? No. But I want to enjoy the fruits of what this magnificent continent has to offer. And that's leaving behind a legacy of conservation. For instance, if you take the model that Steve Irwin lived off of, the Aussie conservationist, a lot of what he did, I didn't quite agree with. The zoos and all that sort of stuff. A lot of it was showcased, and of course, he put on a persona that there's not very many personalities out there that can do exactly what he did. He was an incredible conservationist and an individual that I looked up for. Did I agree with everything he did? No, not 100%, but I related to him in so many different levels. Getting home in the evenings and sitting down with my dad while we watched Steve Irwin wrestle a crocodile was something that will last in my memory bank for the rest of my life. But it's not about that, right? It's about leaving the legacy that he had far beyond what he did. Today, we are very, very fortunate to share a lot of the conservation stories that he implemented and that he looked after. The very species that he looked after is still on this planet today. And without those individuals, we're never going to have animals that thrive out in the wild. Because it's individuals like that that put a personality, that put a bit of character, not in the bad way, but in a very positive light for those animals to have a sense of purpose and worth on this earth. And that's a very important point. So, as professional hunters, what are we trying to do? Well, my main goal is conservation. I want to hunt and I want to share one of our most prominent primal instincts within us is one of the most important ones for conservation. That is my purpose. And the purpose leading from that is to leave something behind for the next generation to enjoy, my daughter. And that's something that's a burning fire within inside me that will forever keep burning, because until the day I take my last breath, I'm probably going to be talking conservation stories forever. But it's such a unique purpose. And as professional hunters, we need to look at ourselves and understand and say, hey, hang on, guys. What is my purpose as a professional hunter? Yes, of course, the lifestyle is wonderful. But if you're going to put yourself out there as a character and share your story with the rest of the world, there's got to be something you've got to leave behind. You can't keep taking without giving. So that's number one. Credibility. Don't ever stop being you. If you feel that you're unique in any particular way, like I said earlier, my story is nothing extravagant, but it's my story. And out of the 3 or 4, 5, 6, I don't even know what it is, billion people there on this planet, I'm sure there's about 10% of the people that can relate to exactly what I've been through. Whether it be men's health, whether it be conservation activists, whether it be people that have been screwed over in an industry that they are so passionate about. But these are stories that people would want to relate to, that want to follow you. I've got nothing to hide. I don't need to hide anything, because the large portion of people that don't agree with what I do, it's quite easy just to turn around and say, well, listen, here is my platform. Come and have a conversation with me. I will listen to your side of the story if you listen to mine. But if we're not willing to engage and have a constructive debate about it, it's never going to work. It's rather going to just be an argument or a fight, and then it kind of loses its purpose, what we're actually trying to achieve, right? So for that being said, I don't have anything to hide. Why would I want to hide anything of what I'm doing? No, I don't want to lie about anything. I don't want to lie about how many people actually listen to the podcast, or how many people follow me on Instagram, or um, a certain group that I relate to. I don't need to, because firstly, in South Africa, none of this is all monetized. I'll get into the monetization side of things a little bit later, because it's really irrelevant in this whole purpose of things. So why am I doing what I'm doing? For that very reason. Because I'm so passionate about something that I feel that I could leave a lasting legacy behind, whether I've made millions off of it or I've made nothing. It's something I'm incredibly passionate about. I love doing podcasts. I love editing podcasts. I love editing my hunting videos. I love being involved in hunting videos. It's not to be famous, but it's just, I love storytelling. That's what I'm about. And I want to share my part of the story. I want to share passion. I want to share drive. I want to share enthusiasm. I want to share my entrepreneurial side of things. I want to share my men's health story. And if I'm going to share all these things with the rest of the world, why would I want to hide anything? There's no need to. Because if I want to start hiding, if I want to start lying about what I've achieved, or what I want to achieve, or where I'm going, or what I'm doing, it's really just going to be completely irrelevant. There are so many people out now today that are getting caught out for being these extravagant influencers that have lied about. I mean, I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast the other day, and just on that particular podcast, he was mentioning that you could actually go out and hire jets. I mean, I've never heard of something so ridiculous, but it's never been a desire of mine. And I understand there are a lot of people out there. If this was paying me millions and millions of rands to sit behind a mic and do that sort of story, I can't tell you whether I will go to those extraordinary lengths or not. But it's not. And therefore, being able to share my raw and uncut, uncensored, unbiased kind of personality that I share. I'm an extremely shy guy, but when I sit behind a camera, it's almost like a light switch, because I get to turn on and bring my passion out and share it with you guys. And those people that have, I mean, the 2 million people that have downloaded my podcast and that have listened to my story and that have followed me along the way, I appreciate that so much, because it actually means that there are a lot of people out there that enjoy listening to what I have to offer. It might not always be the best advice. It might not always be the most accurate, but it's definitely something worth listening to. And that's what fuels the fire inside of me to keep going. So yeah, I'm getting a little bit passionate, as we say, going forward. So have that credibility, because if you can start off with credibility and trust within the people that want to follow you, that's extremely important to developing a personal brand that will have character and that will have, what's the word I'm looking for? But that would have some sort of drive and stigma behind it, because people relate to a lot of honor. There's so much fake shit out there. But if you can be honest and credible on your platform, that's something you can hold on to for the rest of your life. No one will ever be able to take away from that. And the people that resonate with you would appreciate that so much more. Networking, of course, in this industry, being, I hate the word influencer because I don't consider it that, but being somebody that's vocal on a platform, that likes to share stories, that likes to engage with content and people, you will always network. Me doing this over the past couple of 8 years, it's opened so many doors that I've been able to connect with so many different people out there that have inspired me along the way. I mean, I've often sat down with Doug from Splitting Image Taxidermy. Doug has got to be one of the most influential people that I've ever met in my whole life. My conversations with him go far beyond the mic, go far beyond the cameras. Because when I sit down in his office, there's nothing more but constructive conversations that go on. I leave that room being more influenced and being more humble, but also more motivated to go forward with what I'm doing. Because he lights a fire. He's a really he's such an engaging character, and he holds so much positivity in the industry, but also as individuals from an entrepreneurial background. And we dive into so many different things and plans he's got for the industry and plans he's got for the future. And it's such an engaging part of this business. And he's not the only one. I mean, Wayne Dill from African Brothers Safaris, I mean, he's another one that's so engaging. Pat Dugan, a friend of mine that, I mean, I've just met so many incredible people. I've sat down on other podcasts with so many wonderful people, Mackenzie Sims, Robin. It's been something very, very special. And that's all about networking. Because right now I'll be able to pick up my phone, type a couple of messages, and send them out to the people that I find engaging and that I want to engage with. And the networking can start. Why is that so important when you become a personal brand? Because when you're putting yourself out there, you want to align with brands that have the same communication, the same background, same morals and values that you uphold. So with networking, you are able to communicate with those brands. I mean, Doug from Splitting Image is not just a mere case of gaining advice. It's networking. Doug, I'm stuck here. What should I do? Bill's navigated this way. Warwick, Morgan, the whole team there is just so engaging. You know, and not only that, I mean, me and Wayne, we chat almost on a daily basis now because we're networking constantly. And it's not about just hunting. We've been chatting about leopard properties, different things within the industry. And that is so important by building a character, by building a brand. Because it boils down right back to what I was talking about with credibility. Because that is so important. Career advancement. Well, it's kind of like self-explanatory. But with growth comes career advancement. You advance along the food chain. And this is important. And why? Well, it's important because you want to grow. The minute you start flatlining and plateauing, this becomes hard work. This right now for me is awesome. I get to sit behind my computer. I've generated a script, or not a script, but I've generated ideas that I wanted to chat about on tonight's podcast. I get to sit down to a camera and project it out into the world for career advancement. Because I'm being putting my career out there. And yes, I do see it as a career. Whether it is just podcasting that doesn't bring in a single cent, but it is a career. It's work. I'm passionate about it. So that's number 3. That's number 4. Authority. Now this one, I want to say this one has some sort of negative connotation, but I don't think it does, and it depends how you look at it. Depends how you view it. I don't necessarily say that I've got more authority over somebody that doesn't project their story out in the field. No, not at all. I don't. But the more you advance in your career, the more wonderful people you network with, the more knowledgeable you actually really become. One of my first 20 podcasts, I sat down with a gentleman by the name of Stephen Townley Bassett from Queenstown. He's a gentleman that traveled the whole of the eastern coastlines to understand a little bit more about the Bushman paintings that our country has. We sat down and we worked through so many different techniques, tools, things about the Bushman that I never really knew. But I walked away from that podcast learning. Just the other day, I sat down, I had a conversation with Wayne about the leopards in the area. It was just a leopard now the other day caught in his vicinity, caught in a lynx trap that had to be relocated. The issue of leopards, I mean, I've said it in many, many podcasts. In the Eastern Cape is huge. But I'm walking away from those conversations with knowledge. And with knowledge comes authority. And with authority, you get to kind of lay a foundation for the generations coming through to be able to learn from what you've learned from. Because let's face it, right? Not everybody's going to be around forever. But it's up to us, the storytellers of this industry. I'm never going to use the word influencer. I don't know why I don't like it so much, but it just frustrates me more than anything else. But the people that are doing this, that are sitting behind a microphone, hosting podcasts, talking on YouTube channels. I love what Mackenzie's doing with these YouTube channels, injecting knowledge into doing safaris and for individuals that want to play in their first safari and stuff. That's knowledge that has been based off of years and years and years of experience, not only from him, but having conversations with people that he's been hunting with, that he's come out and enjoyed South Africa with, individuals that he's met along the way. And for some reason, at 28 years old, Mackenzie has got authority. And it's not in an arrogant way. It's just knowledge that has been developed and built up over years. I know I was once that one arrogant professional hunter. Oh, no, I actually couldn't tell me better when I got back to the lodge. And, I actually cringe to the day when I think back at those moments. And sitting around the campfire, and thinking, you don't know what you're talking about. And today, well, the past couple of years, I actually found myself going back to those practices that were spoken about around that very same campfire. And that's special, right? Because now I'm kind of anticipating the next generation to come through. And when I share those stories, they're going to kind of have the same reaction that I had. But only I wish I could be a fly on the wall when they actually have that light bulb moment, that aha moment where they actually say, and say, you know what, he was right. Because I'm in that moment right now. A lot of the hunts that I've been on in the past couple of years, I've sat back and been like, you know what? Uncle Will was actually right. Or Uncle Ash was actually right. I should have done it that way. Or I should have handled it that way. Should have been more patient when it came to this. So, but with that, mistakes you have to learn. You have to learn and make them yourselves every now and then. But making those mistakes doesn't necessarily mean you're coming in today without authority. Um, so yeah, authority is a big one in a personal brand, and an important one, of course. Career flexibility. Well, I started this podcast off kind of telling you that my freelancing gig was extremely difficult. There were a lot of challenges in the freelancing industry side of things as far as professional hunting goes. So does it give you that much flexibility? Depends how you look at it, right? Because it's given me the opportunity to start my own thing and kind of encourage myself along the way to not look back and say, okay, well, let's revert to the old ways because right now we're running through a little bit of a bad patch. No, it's kind of given me that flexibility to say, well, hang on, let's reassess where we are at the moment, reset. We've got the flexibility of time, we've got the flexibility of knowledge, authority, networking. So let's just sit back a little bit and see where this all kind of pans out and then make our next move. So as far as flexibility is concerned, I think it gives us a lot of flexibility with our own time. But it doesn't necessarily give you flexibility within your industry. But then being said, it also does give you a little bit of flexibility to negotiate deals with brands, sponsorships, deals with vehicles, hunting rifles, whatever it may be. So there is a lot of positives that you can take from a flexibility standpoint. But when the real nuts and bolts, the actual thing that puts bread and butter on your table, the hunting, the freelancing work, the outfitting work, there's not a lot of room for flexibility there. However, it is a crucial part as far as a personal brand is concerned. And I think a very important one, to say the least. Because it frees up a lot of time, so you're flexible with your own time, and you're flexible with your own decisions. And I think that's so important with developing a brand. Because if you're flexible with your own decisions, there's no one really around the table that you get to point a finger at except yourself. Some of the best lessons you can learn about mistakes you've made all by yourself. It's so important to understand. And a lot of the times, and I've heard this so many times, and I can't reiterate how true it is, but without mistakes, there is no growth. And if you want to grow in this industry, if you want to grow with being a storyteller, being a conservationist, being anything in life, if you want to grow, understand that mistakes are all part of the journey. And until you learn to accept that and understand that, you will go a very, very long way to becoming extremely successful in no matter what, any walk of life that you do. And that was a very, very special trait I managed to learn through a lot of hard mistakes. But you've got to kind of embrace that, right? You've got to understand it's all part of the gig because there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. To the big one, well, it's not really a big one. And to be honest with you, I put this initially when I wrote this plan out, I had it right at the top of the list because I enjoy money and I enjoy the monetary side of things. So whenever a sponsorship comes on board, it's all about, where we can make things work. You're always hoping for a paycheck. in South Africa doing what I'm doing right now, podcasting, YouTubing, whatever it may be, in the hunting industry, it's almost near impossible. And I say that because I don't know where the future takes me. But it's something I kind of haven't really been paying a lot of attention because I'm having so much fun doing what I'm doing. I really am enjoying sitting and sharing my story. Whatever else comes, and I embrace it. I enjoy it, working with some incredible people, some incredible brands, but it doesn't pay the bills. It really and truly doesn't. And a lot of people and a lot of individuals, a lot of hunters, a lot of professional hunters in South Africa see a lot of what's going on Instagram, a lot of what's going on the other social media networks. They look at this and they kind of like, I can make it work. And I'm sure you can. But just understand one thing. And I don't know if it ever will. I hope it changes. Trust me, I keep every day I hope the luck changes for individuals that want to do what I'm doing to make a hugely successful career out of this. I hope it does change. There's been some incredible things that have happened on YouTube, and I know a lot of guys that film hunting and all that sort of stuff, but it's not a personal brand. It's not a personal brand. It's not a brand that they can carry to. It's a business. We're talking about personal brands here because you want to leave something beyond. And you are doing this for a purpose. And monetary value should not be any part of that discussion. I've mentioned it here purely for the reason to make people aware that if you are going to do this for that particular reason, get out now, save your money, because I promise you now you're going to be spending a shit ton of money on cameras and mics, podcasting setup, studios, laptops, whatever you may think of, lighting. It's not going to pay you a single cent back. I hope it changes. I really do. I honestly and truly hope it changes. But right now, the journey I've been on, that's not one of the reasons why I do it. But anyway, and probably the most important one for me is legacy. Something that will ring in the back of my mind until the day I die. Is when I sat down with Pat and he said to me, Dylan, what do you want to leave behind? Doing all of this, what do you want to leave behind? Are you doing this for fame? Are you doing this for personal growth? Or are you doing this to leave a legacy behind? I struggled with depression for a very, very long time. Most of the years I struggled, I never even knew I had it. But I'm proud to sit here today and say that I'm off all medication. I fixed myself with a lot of hard work, dedication, understanding, patience, perseverance, frustration, hard times, good times, smiles, laughter, friendships, lost a lot of friends. My journey is always going to be worthwhile. My life is always going to be worthwhile. I got a beautiful 5-year-old daughter that looks up to me and praises me with every freaking step I take. So to do this all for fame doesn't bother me. But to do this, to be able to leave a legacy behind for other individuals to be motivated on, my men's health battle is not to prove a point to anyone. It's to share a story that it is possible for a lot of men out there to come out and have conversations with one another, because that's something we've lost. That is why I do my men's health motivation and encourage people to talk. it's such a vital part of recovery through depression, through anxiety, through hardship, through good times, through bad times. And it's the same with the hunting. It's the same with the personal brand. I do it because I want to leave something behind. I want people to understand that following me is mere, not just following me, it's following a story that will inspire other people to do exactly what I'm doing. If you are going through a hard time, talk to the person next to you, or talk to somebody that you're most comfortable with having a conversation with. Those initial conversations are always so difficult, but boy, does it help. You'll be able to leave something behind that my daughter gets to look and say, you know what, my dad showed me that black wildebeest. And he told me everything he knew about it. And today I get to tell my kids that. How grateful am I? That's leaving a legacy. That's leaving a footprint that not the rest of the world, but very, very few people will follow it. And that's all that you need. You're not doing this to change the whole dynamics of what we've perceived as conservation and stuff. You're just doing this because you believe it's the right way for conservation. It's the right way to leave a lasting legacy behind for future generations to enjoy and uphold, because it will be up to them. And you hope that your legacy stands so strong that they dare leave anything behind or dare want to tarnish it. And that's something so powerful. Steve Irwin, somebody I'll always look up to for the rest of my life. When I hunt crocodiles, it's not just about hunting crocodiles, it's the story behind it. And yes, he might have only ever touched a very few African crocodiles or Nile crocodiles, but the legacy he left behind resonates through a lot of different species. And I'm forever grateful for that. And I'm sure there's millions and millions and millions of people that are very, very grateful for that very thing. So, guys, personal brand in this industry, why is it so important? Well, you'll have purpose, credibility, career advancements, remember, networking, authority, career flexibility, personal growth. Don't worry too much about the monetize right now. I'm sure it will come. And last but not least, leave that legacy behind. This is so important for future generations to come. I hope this podcast was worthwhile for you guys. And those of you that have asked me a lot of questions about brands and getting involved with personal brands, sponsorships, and all that sort of stuff, that this kind of ticks off that box. I hope that you guys understand this a little bit more. And people that are embarking on their very first professional hunting season, that they would take this into consideration and understand that posting pictures, there's a lot more to it. Again, I'm not saying that this is the right way of going about things. But this is my story. And I'm proud to share that with the rest of the world. With that being said, we're still in the giveaway mood. So I am still going to be giving away a couple of prizes until whenever it all runs out. So last week we gave the Sue Tidwell signed copy of The Cries of the Savannah. I haven't announced the winner yet. I will do so by the time this podcast airs. There would be a winner announced. However, this podcast giveaway is a handcrafted Eastern Cape olive wood handle knife. And it's kind of a special knife. The pattern was actually designed by myself. And the reason I designed it such as this is that there was a hole at the top over here. And myself and the knife maker, we kind of came to this conclusion that what if we could use a knife for like a multi-purpose knife, right? So you would this section you would kind of slide it in and then utilize it as a bolt-on cutter, and then be able to take the bolt out, slide it out, and just utilize it as an everyday knife. However, that concept didn't work. But the knife is beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful knife. It's, like I said, handcrafted, hand forged. Took a long time to do this. It's hammer steeled. The reason why it took so long is because we've got damn load shedding here. But a very, very special knife indeed. I'm going to actually oil it up tonight, make sure that it's ready to be shipped off. So, this is a one of a kind, handcrafted Eastern Cape olive wood handle with a hand forged blade. Incredible souvenir item to take back with you. You can utilize it in your kitchen as a steak knife. You can utilize it in the bush. A really, really special gimmick. And yeah, this was a fun one to be a part of. So good luck. This is a mystery gift for this episode. Well, guys, with that being said, I'm going to close off on a very, 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 very special podcast for me. One that I've been wanting to do for some time. I know I did touch base on it, like I said, one of my earlier podcasts, but it was always nice to reenact or catch up with what I've done in the past 8 years, and it's nice to actually have a little bit of self reflection on how far I've actually come in this industry, as well as being a podcast. So yeah, a very, very, very special one. Before I close off, I just want to say thank you to everyone that has followed me, building this brand, building this story has been something very, very special. So thank you so much. If you haven't yet, I'd appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications. And if you enjoyed this episode, drop a thumbs up. Because you guys interacting with this episode, with any one of my other episodes, subscribing, liking, and following, it helps me do what I love doing. And I can't thank you guys enough. Once again, a big shout out to all my sponsors: Splitting Image Taxidermy, Scully's, Max's Tires, PH Toolbox, Love Ties, and yeah, I think that's about it. I just want to say thank you to everyone. Oh, Magnum Mastery, sorry about that. Seppi, so excited to get down there next week and go and see the new shop and hopefully walk out of there with a good bow. So yeah, looking forward to that one. So if you guys are, happy hunting. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, stay humble. We'll catch up with you guys soon. Cheers.